My replacement was already being trained, and I hadn't even been told I wasn't supposed to be there. That's the only reason I heard what I did. I had just wrapped up 14 brutal hours of reports, pivot tables, last-minute client calls, and the kind of fake enthusiasm that burns your throat. Everyone else had cleared out hours earlier. I stayed late, like I always did, thinking hard work still counted for something. It was close to 8:30 p.m. The office lights were dim, the silence thick. I had just packed my laptop and was halfway to the elevator when I remembered the protein bar I stashed in the break room fridge that morning. I hadn't eaten all day. I figured I'd grab it on the way out, eat it in the Uber. The fridge door was already cracked open. I bent down to reach for the bar wedged behind someone's soup and an old yogurt. That's when I heard voices. Footsteps first, then laughter. I recognized them before they even turned the corner. Lauren, my manager. Nate from product. Emily from creative. All three talking like it was happy hour. I didn't move. I stayed crouched behind the open fridge door, heart pounding, holding my breath. The door shielded me, barely. They walked in without seeing me, still talking, their voices low but clear. Lauren said, "Let's aim for mid-month. We've already got HR on board." Emily's voice followed. "You think he suspects anything?" Nate laughed under his breath. "No way. He's still pulling all-nighters like it's earning him points." My stomach dropped. I was too stunned to react. The way they talked, it wasn't just speculation. This was planned. My name didn't even need to be said. I was the one pulling those late nights. I was the one who hadn't left the office before sunset all week. It was me. Lauren kept going. "He's smart, but he's exhausting. Always overdoing everything. The team's burned out just watching him work." Emily chimed in again. "He's not a culture fit. He's intense. Makes the rest of us look bad." I gripped the edge of the fridge door tighter. My fingers went numb. They didn't sound angry or conflicted. They sounded amused. Like this was entertainment. Like I was some broken cog they were replacing to improve the office mood. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. I just listened as they kept dissecting me like I wasn't even a real person. Lauren said she'd already drafted the transition plan. Nate mentioned someone named Erica who was already being looped in. That's when I knew. They weren't just talking about nudging me out. They were actively replacing me. Eventually they left. Their footsteps faded back down the hallway. I waited a full minute before standing up. My legs were stiff, my body cold. I stared at the protein bar in my hand and felt sick. All that work. All those nights I'd pushed through headaches and anxiety, thinking I was building something, proving myself. Turns out, I was just giving them time to find my replacement. I walked out without a word. No confrontation. No exit speech. I left my coat, my charger, even my half-filled water bottle. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, going over every moment that suddenly felt suspicious. Meetings I wasn't invited to. Emails where I was mysteriously left off the thread. Praise that sounded hollow. Applause that never reached me. By sunrise, the humiliation had worn off. Something colder had taken its place. I wasn't going to let them do this to me quietly. If they wanted to treat me like a liability, I'd show them just how dangerous I could be when I stopped playing nice. The next morning, I walked into the office like nothing had changed. I said good morning, I laughed when someone made a joke, and I nodded through meetings like a man who hadn't just overheard his own execution plan. But everything had changed. I wasn't there to do my job anymore. I was there to collect evidence. I started small. I kept track of when I was left off calls. I saved calendar invites I never received. Every time Lauren said something vague in a meeting about next steps or restructuring, I made a note of it, time-stamped and backed up in a private folder. I took screenshots. I didn't trust anyone, not even the IT guy, so I backed everything up to a drive they couldn't touch. At first, I thought I was being paranoid, but then things started slipping. Lauren sent a friendly reminder email to the team and forgot to BCC. I saw a message forwarded to Erica, the new hire I hadn't officially met yet, asking her to begin reviewing the handoff documents. I wasn't copied, but the thread had my name all over it. That same week, Nate assigned me a project I wasn't qualified for. When I asked why, he said it was just a short-term priority. No instructions, no deadline, just busy work designed to waste time and screw up my metrics. I didn't argue. I took it. I worked on it like it was gold. But every file I touched, every deliverable I sent, I copied myself on a blind thread labeled Exit Strategy. It became my second job. The workday belonged to them, but the evidence belonged to me. Then came the breaking point. I was pulled into a surprise feedback session with Lauren and someone from HR I had never met. They framed it as a regular check-in, but the tone was cold. They used phrases like concerns around alignment and communication style not meshing with the team. It was a script. I sat there nodding, pretending to take it all in, but I recognized the setup. They wanted me to react, to get defensive, to prove I wasn't a good fit. Instead, I agreed with everything. I thanked them for the feedback. I said I appreciated the opportunity to grow. I walked out with a polite smile. Inside, I was already drafting the document I'd send to corporate. That night, I didn't sleep again, but not because I was afraid. I was done being afraid. I opened every saved screenshot, every Slack capture, every passive-aggressive comment hidden in project threads. I wrote it all out, clean and structured, labeled and sourced. I didn't add commentary. I didn't need to. The next morning, I used my personal email to send the file directly to someone at the regional HR office, not the local branch. I went higher. I attached every piece of evidence. The subject line was simple: pattern of targeted replacement, documentation enclosed. Then I applied for 3 jobs I'd been sitting on for months. One of them, a director-level position at a smaller firm I admired, called me that same afternoon. The hiring manager was someone I'd met at a conference 2 years ago. We reconnected like old friends. By Friday, corporate HR responded. They said they were launching an internal review and asked me not to discuss the matter with anyone on my team. That was fine. I had no interest in small talk. The following week, Lauren was mysteriously absent. No explanation. No calendar note. Nate looked pale. Emily wouldn't make eye contact. I showed up, same time as always. Logged in, did my work, and waited. On Monday morning, there was an all-hands meeting scheduled at the last minute. The invite came from someone at corporate, not from Lauren or Nate. That alone was unusual. Everyone joined with their cameras on. Faces stiff, voices muted. No one knew what was coming. The HR rep who led the call looked like she meant business. No jokes. No small talk. Just a brief acknowledgement that internal realignment reviews were underway and that certain practices were being evaluated for compliance and transparency. She never said names, but she didn't have to. The tension in the call was sharp enough to cut through the screen. Lauren was still missing. Someone asked where she was. The question got ignored. Nate looked like he hadn't slept. Emily stayed silent. After the call, I got a calendar ping. It was a one-on-one invite from someone higher up in corporate HR. When we connected, she got straight to the point. She thanked me for the information I submitted, said it was detailed, professional, and concerning. She let me know that what I experienced wasn't isolated and that several complaints had come in over the past year, mostly anonymous. Mine wasn't anonymous. Mine was undeniable. She asked if I wanted to remain on the team or transition out quietly. That was the moment everything came full circle. I looked around my tiny apartment, the coffee cup on my desk, the notes I had scribbled during every late night. I thought about how small I had made myself to fit into a system that never wanted me to succeed. I said I wanted out, but not quietly. To her credit, she didn't try to soften it. She said I would receive severance and a reference letter, effective immediately. My badge would remain active for one more day so I could gather personal items. I agreed. We ended the call. I stood up and stretched for the first time in what felt like hours. The fear was gone. The bitterness, too. All that was left was clarity. That evening, I updated my resume and sent over final paperwork for the new role I had been offered. The smaller firm, the one where my old contact had welcomed me back without hesitation. They had fast-tracked the offer. The position came with a better title, better pay, and, most importantly, better people. The next morning, I returned to the office one last time. Not to cause a scene, not to gloat, just to pick up what was mine and walk out on my own terms. As I stepped into the bullpen, I could feel eyes on me. A few coworkers tried to smile. Others looked away. Emily was at her desk, typing something fast. She looked up for half a second when she saw me. I held her gaze. She looked down again. I went to my cubicle, packed my things, took my coat this time, my charger, that old protein bar I never ate. Before leaving, I placed a sticky note on my monitor. It didn't say goodbye. It didn't say anything bitter or sarcastic. Just one sentence. I was never the problem. I walked out of that building with no regrets. The sky was brighter than I remembered. The air didn't feel so heavy. I felt like myself again. Later that week, I heard through a former colleague that Lauren had been quietly let go. Nate was moved off the project. Emily was passed over for promotion. No one ever said why, but they knew. They all knew. Starting over felt unfamiliar at first. The new company had a smaller office, fewer buzzwords, and no one pretended to be your friend while setting a trap behind your back. People asked questions because they were curious, not because they were trying to measure your weaknesses. My first week felt like a long exhale I hadn't realized I was holding. No one knew what I had been through. I didn't volunteer it. I showed up early, did my work, and kept my tone light during meetings. But there was a part of me that stayed guarded. It's hard to unlearn survival mode. The difference was, here, I wasn't punished for taking initiative. I wasn't shut out for caring too much. My new manager actually thanked me after our first project wrapped. Not in a generic, clipboard kind of way, but sincerely. She said I had good instincts, that I made the team sharper. I almost didn't know how to respond. About 2 weeks in, I got a message on LinkedIn. It was from someone who used to work under Lauren. She had seen the fallout from the inside and wanted to thank me. She said my documentation had made its way to corporate, and apparently it matched with 3 other internal reports. Quiet complaints that were ignored until now. She told me Lauren's pattern had gone unchecked for years. People came and went, burned out or broken down, always blamed for being too sensitive or not collaborative enough. The difference this time was, someone put it in writing. Someone made it undeniable. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't respond right away. Not because I didn't want to. I just needed a moment to sit with it. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. That night, I took a walk through the neighborhood near my new office. It was quiet, lit by storefronts and the occasional late commuter. I stopped at a coffee shop and ordered something I didn't need, just because I could. No emails waiting. No silent judgment waiting on Monday. As I sat there, I thought about the break room. That stupid fridge. That moment where everything tilted. It could have gone differently. I could have walked out and never looked back. I could have exploded. I could have begged for another chance. Instead, I stayed quiet. I listened. And then I wrote everything down. It wasn't revenge that drove me. Not really. It was the simple need to tell the truth. To leave a record. To not be erased quietly, like they wanted. And that's what stuck with me. People don't always win by shouting the loudest or burning everything down. Sometimes the real victory is just surviving with your integrity intact. Sometimes it's knowing you didn't become the thing they accused you of being. I still think about that note I left behind. The one on my monitor. Maybe they laughed when they saw it. Maybe they didn't even notice. But I know what it meant. I was never the problem. I just refused to play along.